as well as all your brothers and sisters. Do I understand that?
Yes.
9 of your siblings have college degrees, is that so?
Yes, that's correct.
Uh-huh. So you were a little girl and you lived in a white neighborhood?
Yes, we did.
Suburban Denver?
Yes.
Black people never came to your house?
No. We didn't live in Denver. We lived in a suburb called Westminster. East Denver, northeast Denver is where blacks live. We lived in a suburb called Westminster.
Uh-huh. And when did you first, tell them about, was it your big brother, huh?
Yes.
Tell me.
One of my brothers came home when I was 9 years old when this happened. One of my brothers came home, and he was called a nigger at school. And he came home, and my second oldest brother sat the 4 youngest children down and told them that we were black, but we were not going to go as black. And it was our family secret and not to tell anyone else. So we just discussed it within the household, never outside.
Huh. And should we call this a closet?
Yes. Yes.
And when did you come out of the closet?
I came out when I was 18, when I started college and wasn't around my family anymore.
You felt an obligation to your family to continue the, shall we call it, a lie?
Well, I think at first we were taught to pass, and I also did feel an obligation. And also, when it first came out, I know when I was told, I just thought I was adopted. I didn't like it very much. I didn't like being black or being told that I was black.
And then when you became 18, you said, why don't I like this? This is what racism is all about. Is that pretty much?
Yeah, when I went to college, I decided that that's what I was black, and I was going to see, well, I kind of thought I was black and white, so I was going to see the other side.
And did you wear an afro and dashiki, or how did this blackness, this newfound interest in being who you were express itself?
Well, first I tried to be political. I tried to join the Black Student Union. I could not. The blacks would not let me join. So the only way I first came out as black is by dating black men. That's where I first started getting the culture and learning about it.
Share with me just the pressure here. Being black means a certain signature, a visible persona. And did you think you didn't have it?
No, to us it wasn't like that. Passing isn't like that. Passing is when you're taught that if you expose a secret, you could end up dead. My mother told me and other people in the family, she taught us in her own way that if we exposed ourselves, that we could lose our lives behind it. She told a story about one of my sisters is dead, and we would ask, how did Octavia die? And my mother would tell a story about how they lived in a street on South May Street in Chicago. It was block by block integration. And my parents lived in a white block, and at the end of the block there was a black church. Well, they were going as whites, and the way my mother told it is that some people found out that we were black. They broke out the window. My sister, who was premature, died of pneumonia. So when she told that story, it wasn't to say, you know, what it said to me as a child is that if the secret got out, that we could end up dead. That's the way I took it as a child. But my mom, sometimes I think it really bothered her to pass. It bothered her a lot. When I was in the 6th grade, when I was 12 years old, I was in my 6th grade class, and there was a teacher there, and he was very racist. And Sammy Davis Jr. married Mae Britt, and he put up this newspaper article about that on the bulletin board, and he started saying some racist comments. And I said that I stood up and said I was black. So they put me out of school, got my mom in school, and said, you know, your child needs some help. And my mother stood up and said, you know, that we were black, and she got that teacher expelled. So there was a lot of times my mom seemed like when I couldn't keep the secret, she seemed to support me in it. So I think it always really bothered her to pass.
And where are you now with this, what shall we call it, dual identity? Tell me your...
I don't have a dual identity. I have 2 parents, and both of them are light-skinned blacks. And I know my history well enough. I don't have an identity problem. I am black. My consciousness is black. My concerns are about black issues and about black people. I have no problem with being black. I'm not multiracial. I'm not mixed. I'm black. Black and black makes black. So I don't have a problem with it.
All right. Kathleen Cross, you didn't try to pass.
Never have.
Uh-huh.
My mother, my story is almost the exact opposite of hers because my mother is white and my father is black. But my mother raised me in the black community so that most of my role models, all the people that I loved, everyone was black. And right now are black. It's not a denial of my whiteness, but it's an acceptance of my blackness and who I am and who I've always been.
You say all your mannerisms and experiences are from the black experience.
I won't say all because I don't think that's true. I think I have gotten a lot of my mannerisms come from my mother. I say things and I've had things pointed out to me like I say I'm going to do my laundry, and that's my mother, and that's not a black term to say I'm going to do my laundry. But a lot of who I am and most of my mannerisms and who I am, the music I listen to. And, you know, I talked about that in the article that I wrote, that I do not adopt white culture as my own. And a lot of white people, I'm sure there are people in the audience who think, white culture, what's that? But if you're black, you know there's a difference between black culture and white culture.
And you've been, certainly you've had a front row seat to racism against black people.
Oh, certainly.
Not unlike a Jewish woman who marries an Irish guy and walks through life with an Irish last name and hears epithets at the bridge table where they're playing cards.
That's right. I've had people tell me, and I had this woman tell me one time she dates black men, okay, and told me she would never date a white man and didn't really explain to me why, but she dates black men, and right now she's married and is raising an African-American child, or at least from my perspective, the child. She thinks the child is mixed, and that's a whole new race. But this woman told me she broke up with her last boyfriend because he was too black. And I said, well, what do you mean he's too black? She said, well, he's ignorant and doesn't want to do anything with himself. And I thought to myself, what is she doing here if that was her perspective of black people? She would never have said that to me if she'd remembered that I was black. She said it to me because she thought I was white.
Mary, was your mother ever expressing concern about your hair becoming kinky?
Yes, my mother was in an orphanage, and her mother got pregnant by a black man in 1915 and gave her up. And so she was adopted by white families. And one family shaved off her hair and glued on a wig, so she never could grow hair up in the front. So she had a real phobia about our hair going back home, and so we straightened our hair, or in some cases kept it very short.
Going back home?
Yes.
Your hair going back home...
That's what she said.
Is a euphemism for...
That's her term.
Using, becoming Negro-like.
Right.
What did she say? Mat it? Straighten it? What'd she say?
She'd say, straighten it. Your hair's going back home. So we'd kind of have a straightening party. Everybody straighten their hair.
Yeah. You understand your mom, don't you?
I understand her very well. I do.
Go with it, honey. It's tough enough. Get yourself in the white world. If you don't have to take this card, don't take it.
My parents were realistic. There is racism. There was racism in 1990, whether people want to talk about it or not. My parents were realistic. It's easier in employment, in housing, in education to go as white. They wanted their kids to make it. They wanted their kids to survive. They wanted their kids to have an easier life. And I don't down my parents for that. What I down is this society still today is the way that it is, racist, and doesn't want to talk about it, and doesn't want to deal with it, and doesn't want to tell the truth.
Has passed?
My mother and dad passed, sometimes when it's blacks. In Chicago, 2 times they went as black, then they went to Harvey, Illinois, and they were white, and then they were black when they went back to Kansas, then they were white when they went to Denver.
Well, that's a very informative answer, which I'm pleased to have on the record. You misunderstood my question, and it's the host's fault.
Sorry.
I meant dead as in past. Do your parents survive?
She's deceased, yes.
She is? And your father lives, does he not?
Yes, he does.
And is not altogether thrilled with your militant stand-up, I'm a black person?
My dad is still white. My dad is white. That's what he says he is. He's white, along with most of my family, is white.
I assume you're forgiving. I don't know if that's the word. Forgiving? I mean, you understand this. Do you feel obliged to forgive him, Mary?
I understand him, and I wished I could do my story. I wished I could change my birth certificate without it hitting national. I wished I could live my life without hurting my family, but that is not possible, and I'm not going to pass. I'm an adult. I have a right not to have to pass. I can't tell my story without involving them, and I'm sorry for that. I'm not out to hurt my family, but it's just the way it goes.
You did change your birth certificate.
Yes, I did.
Big court brouhaha, wasn't it?
No, it was not. My dad's birth certificate says black.
Oh, so there was, but you did have to go to court.
Yes.
And presumably a lot of gray-haired white guys had to get in the chamber somewhere and decide whether or not you could change your...
No, to be honest with you, I don't think they wanted to mess with the story. They passed it right away. My dad's birth certificate is black. There's no question I'm black.
But yours said white, did it not?
Yes,
And you've changed it to black.
yes.
Rock Newman, you grew up being mistaken for white, Rock. It says here you guessed with us again to speak to this very, very complicated issue. And one that you must feel that you get it from both sides here. You have a painful seat in the front row to America's racist drama. How do you feel about that metaphor?
Painful seat is a good way to put it. The issue that has always bothered me, there's never been a lack of acceptance of me in my own community. Always been very much accepted from early on, and I think that had something to do with
What kind of community was this?
This is a black community. I grew up in a black community, had the support and the role models of a black community, and lived from the very beginning as a black man and always have and always will. But the pain that you talk about is the naked, raw racism that I've experienced from white folks who did not know that they was talking to a nigger when they was talking about another nigger. Time and time and time again. In every
You've got
echelon.
to decide who you're going to blow the whistle on here. I don't mean to suggest that I understand this problem, but how do you give lessons to a white person in their 40s at a cocktail party? Do you know what I mean? How did you handle it when people were flat, naked, racist in your company?
I have not said a word and let them continue to talk. And I've punched them in the face. Depending on the particular situation. And my concern really hasn't been so much their education. It has been the embracing of my own community and the uplifting and the teaching within my own community.
Yes.
I know that the attitude about us is not shaped by our skin color. It's by our attitudes. You know, Bill Cosby is a very dark man and he's very acceptable. Louis Farrakhan is a very light man and he's unacceptable, and it's about attitude.
I want to make sure I understand this. When someone is baldly racist in your company, I assume you feel twice afflicted here. One, that this guy thinks you're white and can get away with this. And two, in his honesty, which comes from his ignorance about your origin, he insults you again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is rather difficult not to walk around with my fist balled up, because I understand probably what some other people don't understand within my community. I can get it firsthand and have been involved with it very much firsthand. I'll guarantee you the person who has always said that to me wouldn't say it to someone in the audience who is darker. So I get the real feeling. I get the real racism that exists.
Yes, you do. You do, unrestrained and
right.
without... yeah. Are you there, caller? Hi.
Hello. Hi, Mr. Donahue. I'm a product of an interracial marriage. My mother is white and my father is black. I am very fair-skinned. I'd like to know, why must I be considered black? Why must I be considered white? Why can't I be who I am? I married a Greek fellow, and all of my friends said, oh, you should have married a black guy. You're black. I don't consider myself black. I don't consider myself white. I am who I am, and I'd like to be accepted for that.
May I direct your attention to Benita Porter, who, among other things, many other things, has written a novel titled Color Struck, Your Word. Both your parents were light-skinned blacks, Miss Porter. You recall as a child your mother being ordered by white women to remove you from the colored section of the restaurant.
That's exactly what happened, but my grandmother was also with me. What had happened was, it was in the 50s, and Woolworth lunch counter used to be divided with a little strip down the middle. Yeah. Black people sat in the back, white people sat in the front. And what happened was, we'd come from a day of shopping, and we had to wait because the black section was filled.